Thanks so much, folks, for joining our webinar. My name is Lauren Clark, and I'm the project coordinator with EOS Eco Energy. EOS is an environmental charity that has more than 17 years of experience working on community-based projects related to energy conservation, efficiency, renewable energy, sustainable community planning, climate change adaptation, and watershed health. And EOS would like to respectfully acknowledge that our work is done on the traditional unceded lands and waters of the Mi'kmaq. And I just want to point out that Alexandra Cassie is here with us this evening. So she works for Imaginons la Péninsule Acadienne Autrement. She's the executive director. And she and I have organized this solar bulk purchase with TruSun. And Alex from TruSun is here.
Hi, everyone.
Super excited about. Thanks so much. I also want to introduce Eric Tusking, who's here with Beauséjour Renewable Energy Cooperative. He's going to do a short presentation at the end, sort of going over some financing options that his cooperative offers for folks interested in solar energy. So I will invite Alex to get started.
Thank you, Lauren. So I'm just going to share my screen. Just let me know if you can see it.
Looks great.
Perfect. So thank you everyone for attending tonight. First, I want to apologize for my terrible French accent. I hope you'll forgive me for that. So I'll start with who we are. So TruSun is a pretty young company, but with a lot of background in the business industry. We first started with carpet ranch in Beresford. Then the Hudon family sold the group for launching Julio. Julio is our main company. We are importers of building materials of any kind. So we have a 12-year experience in importing building materials, and it's what brings us to the solar industry. Because of our activity, we felt that we wanted to do good for environment because we noticed that our activity has a certain impact, especially with the freight on the water, was a lot of CO2 and carbon effect on the planet. So we first wanted to install solar panel on our warehouse and see if we could offset a bit of our electrical consumption. So we looked into that industry and noticed that we didn't have anyone in the north of the province to do that for us. So we looked into the design of the system, how we could install the solar panel, what solar installation. This was about 3 years ago. And then now we have a full and experienced team with an engineer, we have a solar technician, with electricians to build our system. So we installed our first system 2 years ago, and now we have more than 100 kilowatts operating in whole province of New Brunswick, and we are servicing whole Atlantic Canada. So first, when we started the company, we saw about like all the stereotypes of the solar in Canada, and especially in New Brunswick. As you can hear with my accent, I'm from France, and the solar industry is well developed in Europe. So I was thinking, like, why in Europe we have so much and so many installations, and not in Canada, and especially in New Brunswick. So a lot of people said to me, oh, don't you see outside? We don't have like a lot of sun, a lot of snow during the winter time. So maybe it's not the perfect weather for doing solar. But we did some studies on that part, and we found that New Brunswick has the same photovoltaic potential than Germany. So that means that we receive the same amount of sun than Germany does. And Germany was the first producer of solar energy during 25 years. Now they are in the 4th position, and it's more because of United States, India, and China was like way bigger land to install solar farms, that they are now in the 4th position. But when you think about the size of the Germany, it's about the size of Atlantic Canada. And you can notice that in Germany, they have a lot of big cities, like taking a lot of space, as we have like a lot of empty land that we could use to create some power thanks to the sun. Then a lot of people think that solar energy is too expensive to be profitable, to be viable. That could be true about 10 to 15 years ago, when it was a new technology, and has all the new technology. It's a high price at the beginning, and then more people acquire that technology, the more the price is gonna decrease. And we noticed that there was a decrease of about 82% since 2010. So in 12 years, the price of a standard solar installation dropped by about like 80%. So that's a lot. And we'll see that it's gonna continue to decrease over the years. 2021 was a bit of a tricky year because of COVID, but now starting 22 and forecasting for 2023, we can see that there was a stabilization and it starts to drop again. And then some people will say to you, yes, solar is good, but it's not good for the environment. There is a lot of drawbacks with solar energy. So same as previous for the economic side, on the environmental one, it's more about stereotypes from the past. When the solar energy was first created, we didn't know about like what to do with the solar panels, how to recycle them, and all about that chain after life. The life of the product was a bit of unknown, and a lot of products were used in the panels that are not used anymore. You need to know that a solar panel is recyclable about 99% now. He has a life expectancy of about 30 to 35 years. And the more people gonna acquire some solar panels, the more some industry will be launched in the recycling process. Then just a few numbers for you. It takes about 1.5 years for a photovoltaic panel to produce the same amount of energy that it was necessary, needed to be produced at the first place. So all the carbon dioxide that during the production process, during the transit process, the storage and the installation is all paid back in 1.5 years, thanks to the electrical production the panel is gonna make. Then a few numbers about the solar energy in Canada. So about 97% of the solar energy is produced in Ontario. We have about 43,000 systems in whole Canada. And for New Brunswick, less than 1% of the NB power electricity is from the solar side. So we can see that we have a lot of room to play in that province and even in the country, because when you look at 43,000 systems for the whole country, it's not a lot when you can think about Germany, who has more than 100,000 systems. Then few tips about the solar production and to be successful with your solar project. All the optimal installations need to be south-facing. You can have a west or east installation, that's not a problem. It won't be optimal, but you still produce some energy. And we don't recommend to have some panels north-facing because the investment will be too much comparing to what you'll be able to produce. The ideal angle in New Brunswick is 42 degrees. This angle will depend on your position on the wall. As you can see sometime on a YouTube video, you'll see a lot of solar farm with some vertical panels. It's more about like the equatorial location where the sun is higher in the sky. For New Brunswick, the ideal angle is going to be 42 degrees, and that's perfect for us for all the ground installation because it's going to reduce the amount of snow that will stick to the panel. So it's a win-win for New Brunswick. When we install solar panel on the ground, we try to keep at least 1 meter from the ground to avoid the shade due to the snow accumulation during the winter time. And we'll use all the time bifacial panels for the ground rack. Those kind of panels are a bit different from the standard one you are used to see. Those ones gonna have two sides of tempered glass, and they're gonna produce energy from both sides, meaning that when the sun gonna reflect on the ground, all the sun array gonna be on the back of the panel as well, and you can increase that production. And the best color to reflect the sun is white. So that's perfect for us because the white has a potential of reflection about 90%. So it gives back the same, pretty much the same power than the original sun array. And it will permit to produce about 20% more when you use those kind of panels. So when we can, we always tend to promote the ground rack because with the rack on the ground, you can face the panels a bit the way you want. You can use the space you want, and you'll have all the benefits from the bifacial panels and the optimal angle. So I'm gonna show you a few examples on how to integrate solar in the projects we can make. So I won't talk about the solar panel on the roof because it's the idea all the people have and you already know that we can do that. I'm just gonna show you all the other aspects of the solar integration. So first of all, we can use the passive solar effect, which is something we already use in our construction when we build some canopy or anything to prevent the summer sun to go in the building. That's going to permit to reduce the air conditioning you'll need to cool down the room. And during the winter time, when the sun is lower in the sky, all the sun array will be able to enter in the room and will heat up the room. So you'll make some substantive economy of energy, first of all. And pairing that with solar panels, instead of having a standard canopy or a standard roof, will increase your benefits because you will produce energy at the same time. So it's a bit of a win-win situation. You'll reduce your consumption, and furthermore, you're gonna add some production to your house. So those are the racks I was talking about. So as you can see, there are ground racks with 42-degree angle. And another good thing about those, when we can install them, is they won't put any additional pressure on the structure. Another thing, when we install solar panel on the roof, we always need to be careful on what's the life expectancy of your roof and how old is your roof. Because if your roof is, let's say, 20 years old, you would like to remove your roof and replace it before putting the panel. Because if you don't, you'll put some panels and in 5 to 8 years, you'll have to remove the panel and change the roof. So it's not something we recommend. And putting some panel on your roof, when you replace it, gonna be the perfect moment because you'll make some scale economy. So it's always good to think about solar if you are in the process of changing your roof, because you can make some economy on that side and reduce the cost of about 10% because you are putting the panel at the same time as your new roof. Then if your roof is less than 10 years, I would say it's still a good time to think about solar because putting some solar panel on your roof will increase that life expectancy because the panel is going to protect your roof from the sun, from the snow, from the rain. So you can increase the life expectancy of your roof of about 8 to 10 years with solar panel on the side where they are. And then one of our baby, that was our first project. We first started in solar with that project is the solar canopy. So we can have solar canopy with 2 parking spots or only one spot, and we can pair that with EV charger. The good thing with this is you'll truly have a green energy for your electrical car. Because when I'm at home and when I'm driving the TruSun mobile, I'm charging that on my electrical plug, but I will use NB power energy, which is in my case from Belgium, and it's a coal energy, so it's not a green energy. So I have an electrical car, but I use fossil energy. So that's a kind of a weird way to work on that. So with a solar canopy, you'll produce some energy, which will permit you to charge your car. And the other good thing is if you are not charging your car, so let's say you are at work during the day and you don't have any car plugged on your canopy, all the energy you're gonna produce, you'll send that back to your home and it will offset all the current consumption. So that permits you like those kind of energy you'll produce will permit to finance structural and a building you are putting next to your house. If you want to build a garage or a tempo parking spot, it will be only an investment, but you will never get that money back. The great part and the great benefit of installing solar on a new building is you will offset that new expense, and over time it will reimburse by itself thanks to the production it will make. So that's just to show you what we can do on a more design way. And especially when we are thinking about like getting an electrical vehicle, it's always good to think about like all the way you have to offset that new expense in electricity. And that's more on the commercial side. When you are building, when you are creating a new building, it's always a good way to think about renewable energy, because when we do our work of installing solar panels, and especially when it comes to the first analysis, we always have to adapt ourselves to the existing building. So we need to see what's possible, what's the size available, if we can put them on a roof, if it's a good orientation, all the kind of aspects. So the solar always needs to be adapted to the existing building. But when you are doing a new construction, you can adapt that new construction and your drawings to the renewable energies. So you'll have the right spacing, you can put more space on your roof, any kind of stuff to get more profitability from your installation. Sorry. Few things about the net metering program from NB Power. So the good thing in New Brunswick is NB Power is allowing you to produce energy and to send the excedent in the grid. That means that when you produce some energy, this production gonna be used to offset your consumption, your current consumption. So let's say your computers, the lights, heat, anything you are using power for, is gonna be offset by that production. In the case you'll produce more than what you're actually consuming. For example, in the summertime, where your production is higher than your consumption, you'll send all that extra back to the NB Power grid. So we just need to think about like the meter we had in the past with the little arrows. So when you are consuming, it goes on the side. When you are producing, it goes the other way. Just an image for you. So NB Power gonna credit you all the kilowatt hour you send back to their grid. And that credit, you'll be able to use that on the following month. So basically what we do is we'll take your 12-month consumption, so your consumption on a year, or we'll do the average on 2 or 3 years, and we'll size our system to offset that kind of consumption. If we can offset more than that, so let's say 105%, all that extra gonna be used to credit, like all the extra you'll make in the summertime, you'll be use that extra credit to offset your consumption in the winter time. The only thing we need to be aware of is after 1 year, at the end of NB Power fiscal year, on the 31st of March, all that credit is lost. So it's always important that we size the system at the right size and not too big, because you're gonna lose that excess of power after a year. So it's why we ask you for 12 months of consumption or even more. That way we are sure that we are not putting a too big system and your investment will be too big because you lose that extra energy. Then the other thing to think about is you need to be the owner of the system. So you need to pay for that system, and you also need to pay for your electricity. That comes in the case if you are renting apartments and your tenants are paying for the electricity, you can't offset that. But you can put them on a building, and if you are paying for the common area, for example, so that way you'll be able to offset that part because you own the system and you pay for that electricity. So I did a quick presentation on what we do for a standard residency, a standard home in New Brunswick. So just to give you an idea, the average consumption of a house in New Brunswick is about 16,000 kilowatt hour a year. That represents almost $2,000 of energy. When we talk about the consumption in dollars, we only talk about the electrical consumption. When you look at your NB Power invoice, you'll see some extra fees like renting fees for the water tank, service fee, taxes, all the stuff like that. We can't do anything about that with solar. So we only take the portion of your electrical consumption, which are your kilowatt hour multiplied by the rate, the current rate. So in 2021, an average home in New Brunswick would pay about $2,000 in electricity. If we take the exact same consumption of 16,000 kilowatt hour a year and bring that to 2050, so in 30 years, the same consumption will cost you about $3,000, about 72% increase. And that's just 2% increase per year. So just imagine what it would be if in the next year, in the coming years, the energy will increase by 5%, 6%, or even 12% that as we can see in Europe right now. So when we do our financial analysis, we only take 2% increase, which is an average of the 10 previous years and an average of the NB Power fiscal year plan, who gave the 10 coming year what they expect for the price increase. So we took that average and that gave us 2.25% exactly. But a lot of economists think that it will be way more in the coming years. So just think about that 72% of increase, we're only 2% per year, what it could look like if it was increasing more. So to give you an idea on that particular house, we installed that system 2 months ago. We installed about 28 solar panels. So it's the picture you can see on the top. That would represent approximately 14,000 kilowatt hour a year, about 87% of the consumption of that home. We can get to 100% because of the size available on the roof. And if the house was a bit more oriented south, it will produce a bit more. So as I was explaining, we are always dependent on what we can do on the existing building. But we will always try to reach 100% if we can. So the potential savings on the first year is about $1,600. And if we take the average of 30 years, it will represent about pretty much $2,000 per year. It's because of that increase from NB Power, of that inflation. So just to give you an idea, if we were to compare the same house with the same consumption, but with solar panels, instead of paying $2,000 on 2021, they would have paid $200. Same thing in 2050, instead of 3,000, it's about 800. So when we do our calculation, we take the NB Power inflation, but we also take into account the depreciation of the system. So we have a warranty from the factory that the system will not depreciate more than 0.5% per year. So that means your system is producing 100% of its capacity on the first year, 99.5% on the second year, and so on, for all the life expectancy of the installation, which is about 30 to 35 years. We can see some system in Germany which are more than 40 years and still operating, but the whole industry of solar based all the calculation on 30 years, so we do the same thing. So on a period of 30 years, this system will save you about $57,000 in electricity, because of instead of paying $72,000 for your electrical cost over 30 years, you would only pay $14,000. But more than the economical part, we can also make a huge difference for the environment with the solar energy. A system like I was showing you with only 28 panels, when you think about it, it's not a lot. This will represent over 38,000 new trees, more than 99 gallons of gasoline, more than 8,000 bulbs switched for LED, and more than 500 oil barrels. And all these numbers are additional. It's not either or, it's all this in addition. So when you can think about it on the full life of the installation, that means a lot. And it's only 28 panels, but just imagine like if we have 10 homes with the same system, you can multiply those numbers by 10. So that makes a huge difference. So now I'm just going to show you what are the next steps in your solar transition. And if you want to have more information about that, what we do with TruSun is we always offer the analysis. We don't charge anything for calculating and evaluating your home for a solar transition. We just need your project address, of course, 12 months of electrical consumption. If you have more, we always, it's always good for us because we can take a whole average on a few years. And we also need some photos of your electrical panel and your NB power meter. That's gonna give us a great idea on what we can do. We'll do an analysis where we can show you what's the production you can expect and what are the financial benefits of your system. We also calculate what's gonna be the payback on your system. And then if you want to go on the next step, we ask for a 10% deposit of the project cost. When we get that deposit, we come on your site and we do a site visit and we do more analysis. We can evaluate the potential content of the project because sometimes with the pictures or the location, we can see everything. And then we'll give you the final system design and the final project cost. If there is a gap between the first cost and the final project cost of more than 15%, you can draw back from the project and we'll reimburse the deposit. And then if you accept, because sometimes there is no gap between those two costs because we always take the conservative way. So most of the time, the final project cost may be cheaper than what we expected on the preliminary analysis. But then after that, if you agree on moving forward and you want to install the panels, there is 2 steps to follow. So we need to do an application for the net metering program from NB Power. So usually it's pretty fast to get an answer. It takes about 1 to 2 weeks. And they just do that because they want to be able to refuse some projects if in some cases there is too much solar in a particular area. For now, no application were denied because of that. The only way that an application can be denied if it's the installer don't give all the right information to NB Power. But if the project is well made and well explained, for now there is no area in New Brunswick that have too much solar that would be denied from getting more. Then we will apply for building and electrical permit. We do the installation of the system. The installation is inspected by the New Brunswick Safety Operation. Once the installation is inspected and if everything is all right, they're gonna send their approval to NB Power. NB Power gonna change the meter to put a bidirectional meter. There is no fee related to that. It's free of charge. NB Power is doing the change by themselves. The only thing on that part is we don't know when NB Power is able to change the meter. It can take a week, like it can take 2 months. It really depends on the availability of the meter, and it's a pretty opaque situation. In some areas it could be pretty fast, in others it can take longer. In this area, it could take some days for some projects and some weeks for some other. So there is no rule to that. So what we do is we install the system and then we need to wait for NB Power to change the meter. And once the meter is changed, then we can plug the system and start the electrical production. So that's it for me. If you have any questions for now, don't hesitate. And I'll give the mic to Eric to do his presentation.
Thank you so much, Alex. That was really great.
Right. Well, thank you, Alex, for your presentation, and for EOS and IPPA for hosting this. This is a good opportunity for people to get on board with using more solar energy. I live in a home that has solar energy, and we use it for our car, and we don't pay for a lot of gasoline as a result. So it's good. Let me just introduce a little bit about Proje Renewable Energy. We often abbreviate that down to BRE, just for short. I'll tell you a little bit about our history, because that says something about our political and financial situation here in New Brunswick. I won't go into a lot of detail on that. I know Alex and I are both available for questions at the end of the presentation. Back in 2003, we actually started an organization called Renew Cooperative, and we had 125 members from all across Canada. Particularly, we were interested in wind farms at the time, and we did a wind map, they call that, and that was very successful. Unfortunately, we were we also did a solar map too. But after that, those two pieces of research, we got a letter from the New Brunswick Securities that says cease and desist, because at that time there was no opportunity for investments to be done except through the traditional securities. I don't know why that advanced there, sorry. So we put a halt to the Renew Co-op, and we were laid dormant for several years until EOS called a gathering in 2015 to say, is there some other way that we can get involved in promoting renewable energy in New Brunswick? And at that time, we had heard that the New Brunswick government was going to start encouraging more renewable energy through a program called LORIS that enabled people to sell power directly to the grid. And then we also learned that there was another opportunity for investments called the Community Economic Development Corporations. It's a program that actually started in Nova Scotia some 20 years before that, but was not available in New Brunswick yet. So in 2017, we incorporated and created our own bylaws and business plan, and we were all registered and ready to go. We did a lot of promotion and things like that. But then we heard that New Brunswick Power did not like what we were, our business plan, because NB Power, we wanted to purchase equipment and lease it to the customer. And as Alex just said, that's not a potential. And so again, NB Power told us that we would not be able to do that. So we changed our business plan to be just a financing cooperative. So the way we work is that the members of the cooperative, and anybody can become a member, members of the cooperative pool their investments and then loan it back out to residents or industries, institutions, whoever would like to purchase that. So that changed things, and we've been going well since then. We've done several installations that EOS has done through earlier bulk purchase agreements, and they're all been very successful and pleasing to the customer and to us. So let me just say, if you're looking at this from a perspective of an investor, you can get up to 50% of your CEDC, that's the Community Economic Development Corporation, as a tax credit on your provincial income tax. So that's very attractive for an investor. They can put in, say, $200,000, they get $1,000 back on their next income tax, on their provincial income tax as a tax credit. We are a for-profit cooperative, and therefore our finances are formed and are done in such a way that we charge an administration cost in order to pay our own income, or provide sufficient income. And that's all possible with an initial investment of $1,000. But that's not probably why many of you are here. Most of you want to be a client. We're particularly interested in promoting greenhouse or renewable energy technology because we're concerned about the environment. Most of us are not into it for big financial gains. So that's where we want to do, and we want to keep as much of that financing and the value of that in the hands of the local people. Similar to what Alex said about his company, we are doing the same thing for us here. What we provide is that financing for customers who cannot afford all the upfront capital cost. And Alex can get into that with probably some examples of what a typical system may cost and things like that. There are several of you that probably can swing that with your own financing. Some perhaps can't, and that's where we come into play. In a moment, I can probably give you a little bit of an idea of those numbers. There's just a repeat of what I just said. That's not much help. For the investors, we will get a return on investment, and we'll also get all of the value for the environmental and the community control of energy for that. This is how you become a member. I should say also that EOS is actually a member. They were one of the founders, and so they contributed to two, I think, of the projects that we put out, and so they're also gaining some financial gain from this. And as a cooperative, if you know cooperatives, it's a one member, one vote. Doesn't matter how much, doesn't make any difference how much you invest. Everybody gets an equal democratic vote on that. I'm going to go to the last slide, Lauren, but I'm going to show us another picture. So I'm going to stop sharing that screen. Right. So this just gives you an idea, sort of a flow, and similar to what Alex has done there, except we also encourage people to register online with the New Brunswick energy efficiency programs. And we do that for two reasons. One is that they get the energy audit for your house, and therefore they tell you, is a installation of a solar panel or any other form of renewable energy the best thing that you can do for energy efficiency in your home? And we strongly believe that, because you could have a very poorly designed, poorly constructed, and poorly maintained home that is leaking energy, and it's not worth it to put solar panels on it. So you first have to look at energy conservation, then energy efficiency, and then finally renewable energy. Now, we're strong supporters of renewable energy, but we think you have to do the first two things. The other reason for that is that if you go through the energy efficiency program for NB Energy, you now can get in line for any possible rebates, grants, and things like that. So that's an important thing, because we want you to be able to, the customer to be able to make as much use of those as possible too. We're not in there to stop the government from doing what we think it should be doing to encourage people. After that, this list is really just similar to what Alex said. This bulk purchase agreement is sort of the encouragers, and then the installer, like TruSun, will get in contact. You help do it, and then when TruSun gives the customer the quote, then they say, well, we can afford this much, but we can't afford that much. Then that's when you can come and talk to Bree, and we can work out the arrangements with that. And I'll answer the question now because some of you will want it. I'll stop sharing that. Is that the interest rate currently is 6%, and usually done over a 5-year period to repay the loan. So I think that's probably a little bit more information that would have been helpful too.
For sure. Yeah, no, thanks so much, Eric. I was just going to sort of echo what you were saying earlier about, you know, energy efficiency and energy conservation is the most important, and EOS definitely agrees with that. Like, the best bang for your buck is to really improve your building envelope, make sure there's, you know, that you've done all the air sealing and that you have a really good building envelope to start with. Because yeah, it doesn't make sense to put solar panels on a really leaky old house that is, like you said, kind of leaking energy. Either it's leaking heat or it doesn't keep the heat in very well, stuff like that. So yeah, no, I would totally agree.
And same thing on our side, like when we install or when we give the photovoltaic analysis, we always tend to say to people, it's about trying to reduce even more your consumption and not increasing. It's not because you are setting 100% of your consumption that you will start to change your habits. Always have this thinking about reducing your consumption, because as we can see in New Brunswick, 16,000 kilowatt hour of average is a lot, and it's an average, so it takes into account the very small habitation. But as we designed a lot of system right now, we can see it's more about 25 or even sometimes 40,000 kilowatt hour for only one home. So that's a lot.